So I'm going to do a quick lesson with you about equivalent fractions. This should be a review, this should be pretty easy for you, and then I'll have your follow-up assignment for what you need. We are going to look at fractions that are equivalent. We have done this a lot already with having a whole fraction, or having a whole, and then having fractions that make a whole. So this one is the tenths. So 10 tenths we know makes a whole. We know 3/3 make a whole. How many fifths make a whole? 5/5 make a whole. We can also say that they are equivalent. And the difference with the word equivalence, it means that they have the same, they take up the same amount of space. So 5/5 is equivalent to one whole. They take up the same amount of space. So in geometry, we are not going to say that they equal each other. We're going to say that they are equivalent to each other, which is a little bit different than what we do in our math work. So in our math work, when we're adding and subtracting and multiplying and dividing, we're still going to use that equal word and that equal sign. But when we're working in geometry about shapes, we're going to talk about equivalence. And equivalence means it takes up the same amount of space. I'm going to show you another equivalent because we don't always have to talk about a whole. We can talk about what is equivalent to something that's smaller than a whole. So for example, if I have a half, can we find something that is equivalent to this half? I can say 2/4 is equivalent to 1/2. They take up the same amount of space. I would write that this way. 2/4 equivalent to 1/2. What do you notice that is a little bit different? It looks like an equal sign, but has 3 bars this time. That is the sign for equivalence. It means that these two numbers take up the same amount of space. Let's do another one. I'm taking the 6. I know it's hard for you to tell in a video. These are 6. So I have 2/6. What are 2/6 equivalent to? I can go from having 2/6 and turning it into 1/3. They take up the same amount of space. They are equivalent. And the way that I would write that, 2/6 is equivalent to 1/3. Okay. Your assignment this week, I want you to write down 4 equivalent problems. So they will be something like this, 4 of these. I attached the website that has the movable fraction pieces so that you can move them and make sure that they take up the same amount of space. You can even, with that page, like if I took my 1/2 and my 2/4, I can put them on top of each other to see that they take up the same amount of space. I think you can do that with that. Whoops, that doesn't look like it takes up the same. There we go. They're moving on me as I move them. There we go. 1/2, 2/4, same amount of space. I think that you can do that with that website. You can actually put them on top of each other and make sure that they actually take up the same amount of space. So I just want you to write down 4 problems, really simply, with the equivalent sign. And remember, this is what we're doing for geometry. We're talking about our geometry equivalence. Okay? Let me know if you have any questions.